Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about using architectural drawings to determine your Feng Shui. It is the most accurate way. You be very clear if you use the architectural drawings. There are some cases where you need them, many cases you don't, but if you have those situations, you really want to do this. Now, you usually can get these drawings from your local government agency that deals with code compliance and building permits. And nowadays, you probably can get them electronically, and that will be cheaper. You do have to call them and deal with them, but it's not too bad. There are some conditions where you really do want to use architectural drawings. If you're facing direction of your house or apartment, and that would include your balcony, is near an emptiness line, you want to make sure you're not at the emptiness line. The other conditions are if your main door is placed so that it straddles two subsectors, that can be a problem. It's not always a problem, but it can be. And sometimes if you have one or more of the important rooms that straddle two different sectors, that is also a problem. And when I say straddling, I mean it's basically split in half. And the important rooms, of course, include your kitchen, your bedroom, and your home office. And of course, it would include your main door too, but that is included here. And this can be a problem for these rooms because each room can only have one set of flying stars, one set of Cheeman properties, and for every year, one set of purple white. So you have to determine which sector that room lies in. And if it's divided close to half, sometimes that's a bit hard. However, if you find that your residence doesn't have any of this after you've done it with it, just using the satellite directions, then it's good enough. Then you don't have to worry about all this work. And it's not terrible work, but it's the way I prefer to work because I know I'm doing it quite accurately. But you still will need a floor plan. If you are in a country that doesn't normally have these, you can do this by hand, by measurements. And I've done this with people in other countries where there was no plans or no building permit obtained, so the architect knows, but the person doesn't know who the architect is anymore. But it can be done by hand. So this isn't the end of if you don't have this, you can't use it. You can still use this under most conditions. If you do find that you need to have an architectural drawing, the best drawing that you can get is the FFE. That's usually all it says. FFE and maybe drawing or plan after that. It stands for finished floor elevation, but that's almost never written out. But you ask for it by the FFE. And it does have to have a north arrow on it. Most do, but some may not, especially if they were drawn some time ago. If they do not, then you need something called the site plan, because the site plan must have the north arrow on it. Now, the first thing you do, of course, is you can use your satellite image to see where your house is positioned, and you can determine then where your doors and your rooms are. You might not need your architectural drawings, but if you're finding you have problems, then this is when you need to go find them. So what I have here is just a very simple idea of what an FFE plan would look like. Your plan will have all the interior walls. It will have some sort of indication of where your permanent plumbing fixtures are, like your bathtub and your kitchen sink and all that kind of stuff. And we'll have a lot more than we have here. Now, I'm assuming this is all living area, and the garage is either off as a detached garage, or it is, or you don't have one. And what I'm marking here is the main door. And this is where somebody is dropping off a package or a visitor is coming. This is the door they go to. And I just simplifying it so that it's easier to see. Here is your north arrow, and these come in various different forms. Sometimes it's only a line with a circle around it. They usually will have an end to indicate north, but sometimes they don't. There are some north arrows that are like half an arrow. They have one half, and just one half of it has the arrow shape pointing to the north, and then you would use the key line is that straight line or the straight half. And sometimes, very occasionally, it might not be pointing to the north, but if it's not, they're going to indicate where it is, especially if you're living in the northern hemisphere. I'm not 100% sure how they do it in the southern hemisphere, but I still think they use north being a north arrow. I mean, that's the more common thing. You will also need to find out the latitude and longitude of your house or apartment building, and you can just put an address in one of these lat and longitude finders. You can just Google that. Available for free, very easy to find. The first thing you need to do is to determine the facing direction of your house, just in general. So I'm going to assume, like most houses, there's a house on one side, another house on the other side, and a house in the back. So it's going to face the road. So this wall here, perpendicular to that, that's the facing direction. And most houses are built with 90-degree angles because that's the easiest to build. And so this line here is parallel to the facing direction. And I want you to draw a line there along this wall. That's the first step. The second thing you need to do is you need to extend the north arrow, and this can be quite hard to do because this is usually not very big, so you have to be very careful and quite precise. You might want to do it in pencil so that you can erase it if you mess up, and or you even, if you've got a laser, I forget what they call it, but it tells you what's vertical, that kind of thing, for painting and doing various things in stuff with the house. You can line that up along this, and you may be able to draw that a little more accurately. Just try to be as good as you can, and this is key. This is telling you what the survey north is, which is UTM north. This is the measurement you need to take. That's the angle you need. And I'm going to later show you north arrows pointing other directions. And this gets a little complicated, but let's stick with this for now. So what you do is you put your protractor on the green line. The center has to go where these two cross, and the 0 point is over here. And then you measure this angle. It might be a little hard to read, but that's 117.50 degrees. And you may not be able to get to the second digit beyond the decimal point, but as long as you've got the first digit, you're usually okay. Then what you need to do is you need to convert this value to the true values. And what you need to do is get your latitude and longitude, go to my website here, and go to my calculator tab. And below the video, there is the calculator, and you put in your latitude and longitude values, and you hit return, and it's going to tell you either add a certain number, or it will tell you subtract a certain number. And of course, it depends on what your latitude and longitude are, what that number will be. Let's say we do that, and we find that the calculator states add a half a degree. And you can round up to the decimal point beyond, round up the number to the number just beyond the decimal point, because it's very hard to measure more accurately than that with a protractor. But the bigger your protractor is, the easier it is. So we had 117.5, we add the 0.5, so we get 118. This is your true facing direction of your house. And I want you to remember this number because we're going to use it later. But this is the key. From this point on, I'm going to show you a bunch of steps of how to set up your chart. And you can, and when I show you these other directions, these next set of, when I show you north being in other directions, you still would use the next group of directions when I'm telling you how to do it, that is. So the first thing you need to do is you need to square off your building. And I always go to the outside walls of the house. And that just makes it easier to do. And then you draw a diagonal from corner to corner, and where they cross, this is the exact center of your house. And if you have a floor plan, this is extraordinarily accurate. What you need to do is, with a ruler, measure the distance between where it crosses and the outside of this wall on the bottom. And you want to make sure that the ruler is as perpendicular to this and parallel to the front and the back. You want to make it as accurate as you can, because you need to take this measurement and mark it out on each side. And if you have a ruler with millimeters, it's usually a little easier. And you can even take a piece of like painter's tape, something that has color, and stick it, put your 0 down here with your ruler, and then just stick the piece of tape here. And then it's really easy to repeat the measurements on each side. And when you do that, you extend the line. Now we have the facing of your house through the center of your house. That's what this is. And it's parallel to the walls on the sides, perpendicular to the wall here in the front. And now you're set up. The next thing you need to do is you need to, remember we had that 118. What you need to do is set up your protractor along the black line, and you're measuring from a 0 here to 118. Now, if you only have the protractor that has a 0 over here, in general, flipping it over is not a good idea because it's usually not terribly stable, but you can subtract 180, subtract this number from 180, and this will be 62. And so you can measure it from here at 62. Either way works. This green line here is your true north direction. And what we'll do then is line up the compass, the diagram that shows you all the different directions, with this line. And I have if you want it, I have a diagram in a PDF format that you can print out on a transparency and you can use. And this is what it will look like. It'll be clearer than this is, but there will be a red line with an arrow and the N, and it'll have all these lines and all these markings, all these letters and numbers. Now, if you remember that horizontal line here, this is in the facing direction. We can easily see that the house is facing southeast 1, more or less in the middle. Quite easy to see, no problems. However, the main door straddles southeast 2 and southeast 1. So which one is this? Well, it is going to be the one that has the majority of the door. And it's not too hard to see. You can see that more than half of the door is on the southeast 2. So the house faces southeast 1, has a door in southeast 2. And you need those two things to get your Chi-Man chart and your Flying Star chart. Actually, the Flying Star chart just uses a facing direction, but and the Chi-Man chart uses the southeast and southeast 2. Now again, I have a PDF file that I will send you that contains this diagram that you can use. You can print out on transparency. Just email me here and I'll send it to you. Now we look at the arrows pointing in other general directions. So if the last one was in the upper left, well, this is in the lower left, just pointing generally this way. What you need to do is set up your protractor along the green line. The center is at the cross, 0 is here, and you measure this. And then you have to add 180 degrees. That is what you're going to reproduce over here by squaring off, crossing, and drawing that horizontal line. So you're just reproducing your north to the center of your house, which you have to do to be able to do your Feng Shui and know where everything is. If it's to the bottom right, you measure this, and this time you would have your protractor on the red line, 0 over here, and measure that, and then you subtract whatever this number is from 360. And then, of course, this just is always just going to give you your UTM direction. You always have to do that correction to get your true facing direction. Then, if it's up and to the right, which is the last basic option, you would be putting your protractor on the green line, 0 over here, centered there, and you just measure this. This is your UTM facing direction. And then you just reproduce it like we have been doing all along. So that's basically it. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you're interested in getting the diagram that you can create a transparency with, you can contact me here. And my calculator is available on my website. I'd like to thank you again for watching.